20 minutes of mixing advice in 20 minutes, or whatever the title of this video is. At this point, I have no idea how long this is actually gonna take. Let's do it. Hey everyone, I'm Cole Caparoon. Thank you for stopping by for another video. What I want to do today is try to distill down the most important things for mixing. After mixing for well over 20 years, I have some principles, some techniques, some ideas that I follow in order to be able to do this for a living. And I want to give you guys the crash course. Now, this is in no particular order of importance, but these are the things that have made the largest impact on what I'm able to do as a mix engineer. And the first one is get it right at the source. Fix it in the mix or fix it later, worry about it later, that's BS. You do not worry about it later, you do not fix it in the mix. If you are recording something or tracking something, get it right at the source. It needs to be as close to how you want it to sound in a finished way, right at the microphone. This is something that eluded me for years, and when you listen to your favorite songs, your favorite mixes, the thing that most people are missing is that the raw tracks sound incredible. Next up, have the sound in your head that you're trying to accomplish. When you're EQing a kick drum, when you're adding effects to a vocal, when you're working on your mix bus, don't just turn knobs blindly to see what happens. Decide what you want to happen and then work to accomplish that goal. You have the sound in your head and then you work to get the sound that's in your head out the speakers. This lets you mix faster, which keeps your perspective fresh, which we're gonna talk more about in a minute. But this lets you mix with intent, not just wandering around aimlessly. This lets you focus in on a thing and go. All right, next up, acoustic treatment is more important than pretty much everything else. Some of these things I've talked about in other videos, but I want this video to be the all-in-one condensed version. When sound comes out of speakers, it comes out the speakers and it hits your ears, but that sound also bounces to the ceiling and then to your ears, and then to the wall and to your ears, and then to the wall behind you and to your ears. And every one of those paths takes a different amount of time. So that kick drum or snare drum or vocal, what you're hearing is 4 or 5 or 8 different versions of that all arriving to your ears at different times. This is called phase smear. And the worse this problem is, the harder it is to make good mix decisions. You can't accurately EQ something or compress something or saturate something or choose a reverb level or a vocal texture because you're not getting actually accurate information. So acoustic treatment solves this. What you want to do is Google acoustic treatment first reflection points, and you want to cover all of those first reflection points: the ceiling, the sides, and behind you. And if you just do this with broadband absorption, not foam, you will be shocked at how much easier you can mix, how much faster you can mix, and how much more consistent your mixes will be. There'll be way, way less happy accidents where this song sounds incredible and this song sounds terrible, but I have no idea why. Well, it's because you accidentally made this song sound great and you accidentally made this song sound bad because you couldn't actually hear what was happening. Acoustic treatment solves all of that, and I would rather mix all in the box with no hardware on the cheapest set of monitors on planet Earth in an acoustically treated room than all of this stuff that you see behind me in a completely non-treated room. It's the first place you should spend real money. Okay, next up, mid-range is everything. Now, when I make a statement like that, I'm being a little bit more lenient with what qualifies as mid-range. To me, I'm talking like 200 hertz to like 4K. This frequency range is more important than everything. It doesn't matter how hard your low end hits. It doesn't matter how sizzly and airy your vocal is. If you get the 200 to 4K range wrong, none of that stuff matters. Nobody cares. I have an entire video called Magic is in the Mid-Range. Most of you watching this have probably seen it, and if you haven't, check it out. It's the second or third most popular video on the channel, and it is going over this exact concept on how to focus on the mid-range, and today I still stand by every single thing I said in that video. Okay, next up, learn your tools inside and out. Every compressor, every EQ, every reverb, every delay, every saturation tool, every distortion tool. I don't care whether it's a plugin or hardware. You should know every single thing that it does and how it works. But you should not learn that while you're actually trying to mix and make music. Every time I get a new piece of gear or a new plugin or a new microphone or whatever, I don't ever put it through its paces the first time when I'm trying to be productive and actually mix and get to the end. I always pull up an old song or have a test session or a scratch vocal or whatever that I'm working on, so that way I can test this new thing out, this new plugin, this new hardware, this new microphone, this new preamp, whatever, and I can experiment with it and take my time without paying the penalty of taking my time and losing my perspective on an actual mix that I'm working on. I figure out what techniques work best, what settings work best, what it's best used on, and then once I've learned that, then it goes in my Rolodex of techniques, and the next time I come across a song that has the problem that that new tool fixes, I don't have to slow down. I grab the tool and do the thing. Now, one of the things that goes hand in hand with this is having too many tools. Back in the day, people used to crack the Waves Mercury bundle, which was like, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds or 1,000 plugins. And it was just ridiculous because they didn't know what most of them did, and they didn't know how to properly use them or get the best results out of just about all of them. And so it actually hurt people to have that many plugins before they actually knew what they were doing. This next one is a bit spicy. Gear matters. I feel like with in-the-box mixing becoming so popular, there was like this trend. It became trendy to say it's the ear, not the gear. That the gear doesn't matter. And for a decade or a decade and a half now, we have been just completely dismissing the gear, and that it is more important what you do with the gear than the gear that you have. Now, yes, there is truth to that. I'm not saying this is entirely false, but I feel like it's disingenuous to say that the gear doesn't matter, because the gear absolutely matters. If it didn't matter, then every one of us would go down to find an old Radio Shack microphone and record every single vocal and every single kick drum and every single snare drum and every single guitar through a 99-cent vintage Radio Shack mic. But we don't do that. Why don't we do that? Because the gear actually matters. Now, yes, I could make a very good song with a single microphone and a single preamp with one plug-in EQ and one plug-in compressor, one plug-in reverb. Yes, I can get the job done doing that because I'm very confident in my skills. I know how to navigate those limitations. Is it gonna be better if I have all of this? 100% it is. Is it gonna be better if I can choose the right EQ plugin or the right compressor plugin for the sound that's in my head? 100% it's gonna be better. The gear matters. Yes, it matters what you do with it, but saying the gear doesn't matter is completely disingenuous. Now, to go along with that, there are no right and wrong choices for gear. There's only the right piece of gear to help you accomplish the goal that you're actually going after, the sound that's in your head. How do you get that out of the speakers? There are better and worse choices to help you accomplish that goal, but there is no better and worse gear. Next up, mix quietly, but check loudly. This is a problem that just about every mixer has in the beginning of their career. We all want to mix too loudly. We want to feel the music. But the problem is that the louder you mix, the smaller your mixes will sound, because you will do less work fitting those sounds together and making it sound big. When your monitors are turned way down, where someone whispering behind you is too loud for you to hear it, you're gonna make that mix sound big. It's gonna make you work for it, because it is much more difficult to make a mix sound big and full and powerful and impactful when the monitors are turned down quietly. When you mix loud, you don't have to do that. It's just loud and powerful and impactful all the time, and it really, for most people, it really makes you miss all of the things that make a mix loud and powerful and impactful. But I used to only mix quietly throughout the entire mix, and I found that that was also hurting my mixes. And so now what I do 22 years later, I mix quietly, like as quiet as someone tapping on a keyboard, as quiet as someone whispering behind me. But for me personally, when I got to the end of a mix and I had never checked it loud, sometimes my mixes were a little too pokey and a little too harsh and a little too impactful. So now what I do is I mix quietly almost the entirety of the mix. But every 15 minutes, every 20 minutes, I will just let it eat. And I mean, kind of let it eat. And what happens is it shocks you, and it creates a fresh perspective immediately. And it shows you all of the harshness, all of the ugly stuff in the mix that mixing quietly was hiding. And so I do this back and forth until I'm happy with both. In addition to that, if you can mix on multiple sets of monitors to get multiple perspectives, this really helps your mix translation out. It's the exact same principle as mixing quietly and checking loudly. For the longest time, I had event opals, and I had NS10s, and I had Auratone 5Cs. And what I would do is I would spend 30 or 40% of the mix on the NS10s, and then I would spend whatever is left, the 20 or 30% on the Auratones and on the event opals, on the mains. And when there was no changes left to be made on any of those speakers, I heard nothing that I wanted to change, then I knew for sure my mix would translate. It would sound good in the car, on the boombox, the Bluetooth speaker, the laptop, the cell phone overhead at the grocery store. Nowadays, my Focal Trio 11s have a focus mode built into them. And so I'm constantly switching back and forth between this focus mode and the full range. I'm constantly turning the subwoofers off and turning them back on. I'm constantly checking on headphones. And so these are the things that I'm doing. But if you just need one extra pair of monitors, I can't recommend some Auratone 5Cs enough. They were hugely transformative to what I could do. And I would just go back and forth, and it was a completely different perspective that made me get to the end of the mix with way fewer revisions and way fewer changes. You go out and check it in the car, and all of a sudden there's way less things to tweak when you're doing your car check. Now, the magic is in the mid-range video that I referenced earlier. I'd used a trick, an EQ trick on my mix bus to simulate some Auratone 5Cs. So again, if you haven't seen that video for some reason, go check out my Magic is in the Mid-Range video, because it will show you how to do this with 0 extra gear. You have to buy nothing in order to get this done. Okay, next up, mix fast. The longer you work on anything, it doesn't even matter what we're talking about, the less fresh your perspective becomes. Us as humans, our hearing and our vision is extremely adaptable. We adapt to what we're hearing and to what we're seeing very, very quickly. When you listen to a kind of crappy mix, by the end of the song, a 3 or 4 minute song, you're starting to think it's not actually that bad, most people. And so making decisions very quickly, like when I'm mixing, I'm like kick drum, snare drum, bass guitar vocal, or bass element vocal, and then it's just from there, it's whatever hits me next. What is the next thing that I just close my eyes? What's the very first thing that pops out at me that I'd like to change? Change it. What's the very next thing that needs adjusted? Adjust it. Like, it's very, very fast and like gut reactions. And this is a skill set that grows over a long period of time, but the faster you can mix, the better your mixes are going to be. Okay, next up. If everything is loud, nothing is actually loud. Parts of a song have to be quiet, because the song will not sound loud and powerful if there are not quiet parts in the song. You can't put every single element in a mix at the same volume to garner the same amount of attention. You have to sacrifice elements within the mix, and you have to choose priority, because if everything is the same volume, then there's no depth in the mix either. Something has to be quieter. Now, how I choose the priority is what is going to enhance the emotion of the song. What are the tracks, what are the instruments or the elements that will more enhance the emotion of the song? And then I use all the other stuff that I don't feel will enhance the emotion of the song as much, as filler, as depth, things that are turned down in the mix a little bit, that create space in the mix. I also use tons and tons of automation to make sure that the quiet parts in the song are actually quiet, because I want the loud parts super loud. But if everything is super loud, then the song doesn't sound loud at all. It's the impact, it's the change, it's the going from quiet to loud that makes something sound loud, impactful, and powerful. Okay, next, for years, it kind of eluded me how you became a mix engineer for a living. And now what I know is you have to produce excellent music before you can get hired to mix someone else's productions. The vast majority of people who are mixing for a living started off producing, and they would mix their own productions. And you get so good at producing and at mixing that other producers or other artists hear your work and they go, man, That sounds incredible. Can you mix mine? And eventually you do that for enough people, and you are in front of enough people that eventually there's enough people wanting to hire you to mix that you can fill your schedule with just mixing. But it is almost impossible to become a full-time mix engineer if you don't get really, really good at producing first. Okay, next up, stop EQing and compressing everything. I was so guilty of this for so many years. There's so many plugin slots on every track in Pro Tools. I better at least EQ and compress everything. No. When you push a fader up and you hear a track, it doesn't matter whether it's a hi-hat or a vocal or a sitar. It literally doesn't matter. Like we discussed earlier, you have to have the sound in your head that you are trying to get out of the speakers. But if you push that fader up and you don't hear any changes that you need to make in order to get the sound in your head out the speakers, leave it alone. You should only EQ or compress or saturate or distort or add effects to something if it helps you get the sound that's in your head out the speakers. There is no point in adjusting that stuff if it doesn't help you accomplish the goal, or if that track isn't fighting with some other element of the mix and you need to fix that conflict. You probably wouldn't believe how many tracks I don't do anything to nowadays other than ride faders. Now let me contradict myself for a second, because this dichotomy, this oppositional opinion that I'm about to explain here is one of the fundamental things that let me break through, that let my quality of mixes break through. Because the next part is, when you have a sound in your head and you're listening to a particular track, you can use however much EQ, however much compression, however much distortion, reverb, delay, whatever. You can absolutely mangle that track if it's what's necessary to get the sound that's in your head to come out the speakers. It's very, very important to not be afraid to leave something completely unprocessed, but it's equally as important to know when to process something and not be held back by what the EQ looks like or what the meter on the compressor looks like it's doing. It doesn't matter. Push and EQ and compress and distort and reverb and delay until what you want it to sound like is what's happening. Don't be afraid to mangle something, but also don't be afraid to not do anything. We got a couple more, but first, there are links in the description down below for every single piece of gear that I use: plugins, compressors, hardwares, microphones, literally everything. But you don't just have to buy what's on that list. Anytime you guys need any piece of gear, doesn't matter whether it's a pack of guitar strings, a microphone cable, or your holy grail compressor, jump on any one of my videos, click on any link in the description of any video, and once you're on the site, you can purchase absolutely anything you need. And when you do that, it is a massive, massive support to me and to this channel, and helps me keep making content just like this. Those links go to Sweetwater. So huge thanks to Sweetwater for sponsoring this video, and thank you guys so much for using those links to purchase anything you need anytime you need to purchase something. It means a huge amount to me that you guys support the people that support me. Okay, next up, within reason, spend money one time. The saying goes, buy once, cry once. And yes, this stuff is expensive. And I don't think, the reason why I say within reason is because you shouldn't not buy a microphone because you can't afford a Sony C800, that $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 microphone. But if your option is buying an SM57 for vocals or buying a Lawton Atlantis for vocals, and you need to save for 2 or 3 months to buy the Lawton Atlantis, then save for 2 or 3 months and buy the Lawton Atlantis. Because at least you will have something that is like you can use this forever. When you purchase things that you are going to very quickly outgrow, what you're effectively doing is losing money. You're just flushing money down the toilet. So if you have a piece of gear that you really want, and you only need to wait another month or 2 or 3 or 4 months to get that, don't spend the money on the thing that you can afford right now just because you can afford it right now. Spend once. Figure out what is the ultimate-ish version of what you need and buy that thing. Save up and buy that. I cannot tell you how much money I've lost in the past years buying things that I thought would get me by or that I thought would satisfy kind of a need, but knowing in my head that this is the thing that really does what I want. But I don't have that money right now. I do have this money right now, so let's just go ahead and buy this. And then I end up selling that and losing a ton of money on it and buying this anyway. So within reason, spend money one time. Okay, the next thing which goes along with what I just said. Do not wait to get started on something. Do not wait until you have your holy grail microphone, or the compressor that you really want, or the acoustic treatment that you really need, or the speakers that you really want, or the desk that you really want, in order to get people to work with you. Just start. Just go right now. There's so much imposter syndrome floating around. There's so many engineers and artists that never even get off the ground, that never even have a chance at success because they won't just start doing the thing because they don't have X yet. Don't wait for X to get started. Aspire to have X, save up and work towards having X, but work with what you have right now. Just go. It is the #1 thing that I see makes most people fail at having a career in any part of music. There's a lot more that's important to this, but these are the things that were the most important principles and ideas for me to get where I am. And I truly, truly hope it helps someone. If you have any things to add to this, put it in the comments below. If you see someone asking questions in the comments below and you have an answer to them, reply to them, and let's all try to help each other out. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for using the links in the description. Thank you for subscribing, liking, and commenting. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.